Hey everyone, Magic Sword here, and I know we skipped Mage in favor of Paladin. That was just kind of a scheduling thing. I wanted to get another video recorded yesterday, but I literally only had like 10 minutes. So I knew the Mage won't be longer, so here we are now, and I have a little more time. So let's not waste any more time and start with Hot Streak, right? So this is the first of many fire spells, which is a little weird because the quest was all about fire, arcane, and frost, right? And I think the thing is with that is the year of the Griffin cards, or there was a lot of arcane, and then of course last expansion we got a lot of frost, and this expansion we get a lot of fire. So now we have the trifecta. We have all three spokes of this wheel, as it were, the three little branches of government. It's a joke for you Americans. So we have um, we have our first card, Hot Streak, right? So 0 mana, your next fire spell this turn costs 2 less. This is a tried and true card, like style, I guess. I was gonna say type, but type means something different. So it's this type of card, and it discounts this by 2. Be it battle cry cards, be it elementals, right? 0 mana, discount this next thing by 2. Shows up a lot in this, and it's usually at least okay if the cards themselves that it supports are okay. So your next fire spell costs 0 this turn, or costs 2 less this turn. Jesus, and it is of course itself a fire spell, which is pretty big for the quest. Now I'm gonna say this outright. I think the whole fire kit is not great, and I think the quest is in the bottom half of all quests. But um, I think it's a little hard to start with Hot Streak. So just keep this in the back of your head when we're reviewing the other cards, and understand that you have to kind of assess the kit as a whole because it's all synergy, right? So if we go to our next one, First Flame, which is a 1 mana spell, deal 2 damage to a minion, very normal. So 2 damage to a minion with a bonus effect is the standard 1 mana spell now. Thanks to things like Sword and Board. And then you add a second flame to your hand, and second flame is the same thing. It's just deal 2 damage to a minion, and it's kind of like the just a mirror version of the first one, right? Not exactly. It's clearly a different art, but thematically that's what they're going for. So this is really powerful with the quest, but again, I think the quest is kind of eh. So I like this a lot. The idea of I'm shooting it out of my right hand. No, I'm shooting it out of my left hand, and artistically, thematically, really great. It is an okay card, and that's kind of the whole deal here, really, with all these cards. The fire cards are kind of okay. So there's a new card here, but we're going to skip past it in favor of looking at Ignite and all the other fire cards first. So 2 mana, deal 2 damage, shuffle an Ignite into your deck that deals 1 more damage. So one thing that I think I haven't touched on with a lot of these shuffle mechanics, a lot of them are just like shuffle things that cast when drawn into your deck. This shuffles something that makes it so you could potentially go infinite and burn your opponent to death. So your game plan could just be control with Ignite as your win con. I don't think that's good, but that does open the gate to that idea, right? Where Mage can be control and just ignite the opponent to death. You functionally have infinite burn in a game that goes super long, assuming you don't get counterspelled or yogged, right? I don't think that's good. I think it's on the table, and I think we should keep it in mind for future expansions. I think right now it's bad, but it's a really interesting design space, right? So again, another card that is okay. On its face, just like 2 mana deal 2, then you get a 2 mana deal 3, then a 2 mana deal 4, right? And remember that these copies are independent of each other because it's shuffle and ignite into your deck that deals 1 more damage. It's not your next ignites deal 1 more damage, then 2 more, then 3 more, right? So the fact that you're running potentially 2 copies of this, you will have a 2 and a 3, and then a 2 and a 4, or a 3 and a 4, right? Depending on how you play them out. So potentially you're drawing the worst ignite, in which case you're just kind of where's my card? But the potential to go infinite is always fun in Hearthstone. So I think, or fun might not be the right word depending on how you play, but I think that this could make some sort of wacky, absolutely silly control deck later. Um, so next up we have Prestor's Pyromancer, 2 mana, 2/3. Battle Cry. Your next fire spell has spell damage +2. I immediately thought of Combustion when I saw this, right? So that always benefits greatly from the extra damage. Flame Strike as well. Now that's a 7 mana, 7. It's a Dr. Boom stats, but a spell, right? So, um, your this is a cool card, and it is your next fire spell, not your next fire spell this turn. So you can tempo this and be fine, and then tempo combustion potentially, depending on the opponent. It's a battle cry, so it's not a persistent effect, but again, just like popping this guy down and being like, all right, now we play the waiting game until I have a good fire spell. Or like maybe you have Fire Sail. That's a card we looked at earlier. It's basically Hellfire, right? And you just delete the board for 4 mana because it's now dealing 5 damage to everything. It's basically Dragon's Fury, right? I don't know. There's a lot unpack with this, and it relies heavily on the fire kit being good, which again I just don't think it really is. So Sanctum Chandler, my brain every time I read Chandler, I'm like, is that a typo? Is it supposed to be chandelier, or is it supposed to be candler? Did they just like mush them together? Is it intentionally a portmanteau, or is it a typo? And I could not tell you. So, this is a persistent effect, 5 mana, 4/5. After you cast a fire spell, draw a spell. So we have a 0 mana fire spell that makes other fire spells potentially 0 mana. Pretty good. But I think like on paper, like in a vacuum, I think that this kit is like, it might be better than I'm giving it credit for, but there are things that I know are strong, like the Hunter quest, right? So it's a little unclear to me how I should feel about Fire Mage or like this mixed spell mage, right? Um so I feel like when we see 5 mana and like persistent effect draw a spell, that seems weak to me on paper in a class like Mage, where because it's not like Gadgets and Auctioneer in Rogue or Druid, it's in Mage, which historically, um, except for when you have some sort of stupid Sorcerer's Apprentice deck, the cheap spells aren't there. And this would be, as a 5-drop, this is supporting a potentially a bigger spell archetype. Um, it feels bad to have your card draw engine be on a 5-drop. And again, I understand Gadget Sand was there, but that worked in classes that literally had cards that were just like super coins, right? Mage does not have that. The best it has is Hot Streak and another fire spell. And if you're only drawing fire spells in your deck, like if you're exclusively Fire Mage, this might work. But I think pure Fire Mage doesn't work. And we'll get into the legendary that makes it all possible in a second. And I think that neither mage archetype is great. I think that the quest mage might be slightly better. It might edge out fire mage. I kind of hope I'm wrong because I'm not super thrilled about the quest. I think it's more interesting, but I'm just really not excited about either. And maybe that's my issue. I rate my excitement levels, not the power levels of the cards. But we're going to get back to Clumsy Courier there. But Grand Magus Antonidas is the capstone fire spell card. If you've cast a fire spell on each of your last 3 turns, cast 3 fireballs at random enemies. That's a battle cry. And it's a board clear or finisher, depending on how you think about it. That's a really good effect for 8 mana. I mean, if you can meet that requirement, that's good. But the issue is, like, Sanctum Chandler is encouraging you to kind of bop, bop, bop all in one turn. You're supposed to be chaining cheap spells together. Now, hopefully that's like the second or third turn you're doing it, and then you by like thinning your deck, you improve consistency and get to your Antonidas faster or something. But if you've cast a fire spell on each of your last 3 turns, cast 3, that's a big condition to meet in a deck that isn't just like straight up fire mage and only fire spells are run in that deck, right? Maybe with like a couple arcane for card draw, right? and maybe like a couple, like a brain freeze for early clear. Although first flame is supposed to kind of fill that void, I think. It just it doesn't feel good to me. I have a bad gut feeling that I'm struggling to articulate, but it feels like it won't be consistent enough for its power level. It's like if it were this consistent, but like literally game winning, like the Priest quest, yeah, I'd be on board. But it's like 18 damage. All right, cool. That's like that's good. It's not good enough for how inconsistent it is, right? Or for how much power you have to sacrifice overall to get that consistency is a better way to think about it, right? Because the fire mage deck is skipping out on a lot of really powerful arcane and frost cards that have been like core to mage since spell schools were introduced last expansion. And I just the other big thing with mage right now is that it's coming from a an archetype that is like clearly not being supported anymore, which is spell mage, right? We didn't get any strict spell synergy spells. Um, so that's kind of one thing here. But so it's always hard to gauge when like a totally new archetype is trying to be born, whether it'll be good. That's like what we're kind of doing these reviews for. And I think that this archetype is not getting off the ground. I think neither mage archetype is really getting off the ground. I'm going to jump back to we have the special weapon, the tool, the Celestial Ink set. Um, right, so this is a 2 mana 0/2. After you spend 5 mana on spells, reduce the cost of a spell in your hand by 5, lose 1 durability. So you get to do that twice. So this is like a big spell mage now? That feels kind of out of nowhere. Um, I mean, I guess it still works. It works with spell mage. So I was wrong to say that it didn't get any support because those spells say if you have no minions, not if you have only spells, right? So Celestial Ink set does work with them. That might be okay, although the decks do run quite a few cheap spells, right? And you're often just like trying to fill your hand. So the best case scenario is you discount your Apexis Blast or your, um, I mean, Lunacy is just like bad. You shouldn't be running it anymore. But yeah, let's the best case is you discount your Apexis Blast and you get a free 0 mana guy or your Oasis, right? You just draw 2 refreshing spring water. That's what it's called. You draw 2 and get all that mana back for free. That's the best case scenario. I think if Spell Mage were to continue to be a thing, this probably would see play because there are some spells that are like kind of just in there to be in there. Um, and this allows you a little more variety than just running spells, right? Because they're in there because the deck restriction is so limiting. So you just kind of end up filling out the deck. This could easily replace some of the weaker cards in it, but I don't know if it's that good, right? That's like a lowish tier 2 deck at the moment. It's just like people complain about it because it's random and frustrating often, but truthfully it's just not that great. It's good enough, but it's not great. Great. I think it's in a pretty healthy spot, admittedly. And this might be a slight power boost, but I think everything else is getting a more substantial power boost, and that's the issue, right? Celestial Ink set is just not enough for that archetype. I think this is a sad expansion for Mage. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Um, Clumsy Courier cast the highest spell cost spell in your hand. I really like that. A little bit of anti synergy with Ink set, where you want Ink set to hit your expensive spells and make them cheap, but then they're not being cast by Clumsy Courier. Um, I like this idea of it's casting something from your hand, so that's typically reserved for like a random effect, but it's not because it's the highest cost spell, so you can manipulate that, right? You know when you drop this what spell's going to cast. It's just a matter of what you have in your hand when you want to play it, and you're like, oh, I don't have Flame Strike, or oh no, I drew something more expensive than Flame Strike, but I really need Flame Strike, and because this costs 7, I can't play the more expensive thing out, right? So there's a lot of thinking here. I like where the thinking space that this card creates. I don't think it's good. So 7 mana 4/5. I mean, it is still 7 mana. Even if you got a 3 mana card, that is value. But of course, targeted spells, targets are chosen randomly. Ideally, you're casting like Flame Strike or something like that. Now, when it says cast highest cost spell from hand, that's interesting to me because I'm not sure if that works with Grand Mage's Antonidas. I want to say it doesn't because I think historically minions that cast spells don't count as you casting them. Um, but I'm not positive on that. Obviously, if it counts as you casting it, it's way better. But I think it doesn't is the issue. So like I said, 3 mana spell, technically you're getting the value of the card, but 7 mana cards have to do more than that. They have to be more than 4+3. They have to be, in a lot of ways, 7 mana cards have to be worth 8 mana, if that makes sense, right? Um, so yeah, I see a bunch of pieces. It's almost like they're giving Mage the shaman treatment right now, where they get like a bunch of different pieces for different archetypes, and they can't quite fit enough of anything together. Um, this is looking sometimes I see an expansion, I'm like, this is set up for the mini expansion, and I think that's a little bit what we're getting right now. So this is a bit longer than the other ones because I couldn't in good conscience just do like the fire spells and then two different a weapon and a minion for mage. So I just needed to lump them all together. Um, I think that overall this is a bit weak. It's like kind of a lot weak, honestly. So cast the highest cost spell from your hand. Yeah, whatever. Um, very underwhelmed with mage. It's definitely in my like bottom half of classes right now, and it might be like bottom 2 or 3 even. I'll do a tier list at the end of these reviews. I'll do a tier list for all the legendaries and all the new archetypes, right? Um, so there'll be one for quests, one for minion legendaries, and then like one for archetypes in general, right? And you'll see basically everything mage at the bottom. So that's it for Mage, guys. Hope you are not as disappointed as I am. Tell me in the comments below why you're not disappointed, right? Or commiserate with me, whichever you want, however you feel. Make sure you like and subscribe. Makes me happy. Hopefully, we'll see some content. There should be a video coming out after this. But yeah, other than that, tomorrow we'll keep the train rolling. I'm gonna have to record a bunch for the next couple days. So if I'm not getting back to comments like I usually do, that's why I'm going to be out. So let's see where these next expansions take us. I think Mage, maybe Rogue is the most Mage and Rogue are kind of close in terms of disappointment. So we'll see those soon. All right, see you in the next one.